Hi guys! As some of you may know, I'm on a Discord server for doll customizers called the Stockbox. I'll leave the link in the description box if anyone wants to come join. And I've met lots of new friends on there. One of my friends, Mama Maro, and I decided to do a swap this month. Yay! We had a little trouble figuring out a theme for our swap and eventually settled on just sending each other a color palette and naming some general things that we like. Let's take a look at the palette. Very pretty. I love the way the peach tones offset some of the blues and purples. Mama Maro also mentioned that she likes anime, fantasy creatures, and Japan in general. At this point, I mildly Instagram stalked her and found these cute little fox tattoos she has. I've been wanting to do a character with ears, so I thought a Kitsune girl would be really cute. I looked up some Pinterest inspiration and settled on making a yukata, which is a slightly shorter, less formal kimono that you might wear to a festival. I love yukata because they're bright and colorful and look very summery. However, when I started looking for fabric, I ran into some issues. Nothing was quite the right color, or didn't have a design that I liked, or didn't work on doll scale. I thought I could get away with just dyeing my own fabric like usual, but I really had my heart set on some cool patterns. So here we run into Kimberly being too picky 2.0. I'm not going to simply dye my own fabric, I'm going to design it myself and have it custom printed. This was both easier and more difficult than I thought it would be. I started out with a simple gradient, taking the colors straight from the reference palette. Then I had to decide what to put on top of the gradient. A quick search of traditional Japanese patterns came up with lots of cool geometric designs. I asked Mama Maro if she liked mountains and landscapes more, or if she liked sea scenes and starry skies. She said she liked star and the ocean more, so I'm going to start with this cool wave pattern. Just trace it with a pen tool and layer it up. Then on top of the pattern, I found another traditional shape that's supposed to be stars. Grabbing the purple, I painstakingly trace out a perfectly symmetrical star shape. So that when you layer it up, they should all fit together. These stars were just a little too abstract for me, so I added in some cartoon four-pointed stars for good measure. I fiddled with this quite a bit, going back and forth with the measurements. Doing this in scale was really important, since I wanted the waves to come up to about her hips, have a little bit of a blank space with just the gradient, then start in with the geometric stars right under her bust. I had my mannequin doll and the yukata pattern right next to me during this whole process. Once I was finally happy with the pattern, I looked around online for a place to print my fabric, and found Spoonflower. They have really great quality cotton fabric and no minimum. I was able to print this pattern out in a fat quarter. Since I was able to find such a large cut of fabric, I had enough space to sneak in the collar and obi colors over on one side, so that I wouldn't have to track these colors down at Joann Fabric. If I did my calculations correctly, this should be just about the right amount of fabric. Well, nothing to do now but wait for the fabric to arrive. In the meantime, let's make some shoes. I'm making geta here, which are tall wooden sandals that allow you to keep your expensive kimono fabric out of the dirt. I get a fairly large piece of female clay and slowly squish it into a rounded rectangle shape. Make sure that your shape is as tall as you want the little stilts to be. I turn the shoe to the side, and using an X-Acto knife, I cut out the shape of the little stilts. This way it's all one solid piece, and it should be more durable. Then, using your doll's foot as a reference, poke 3 holes where you want the strings to go through, and create the sandal. These are not super stable shoes. They're a little difficult to force her to keep on since they're not high heels. She'll look like she's going tiptoe in the shoes, but that's a pretty cute effect too. Moving on to the ears, I made a little mistake. I rerouted this doll without putting the ears on first because I'm an idiot. So we'll have to work around. I grab a spare pair of Claudine ears that I've sliced off, and carefully scoot her hair out of the way. Using my General's chalk pencil, I trace around the base of the ear, then cut the plugs as close to the scalp as I can with my thread scissors. This is kind of messy and not as sturdy as doing it correctly would have been, but like I said before, I was being dumb. I cut the ball off of a pin and stuck the ears on top. I'll use that later to stick the ears into the head. Mix a color close to your fur color. For me, I wanted to keep this soft strawberry blonde, and paint the back of your ears to match. The inside should be white if you're making a fox girl. Then glue on little tufts of brushed yarn onto the ears themselves and stick them into the head. Finally, we're ready to do the face. For this character, I wanted a sweet, innocent look, so I blushed her much more softly than I usually blush my dolls. I stuck to a very soft pink on the lips, a light peach for the blush. I hit her cheeks, nose, and a little on her forehead. I did contour her as well, but much lighter than I usually do. While I have the colors mixed, let's do the body too. Since this girl is very inspired by anime, I'm going to do wide, round eyes. I sketch out the shape with a medium brown, keeping my strokes light and slow so I don't mess up. I draw in the waterline with this peachy salmon color, and then start darkening up the lashes with a brown. I know I mention it every time, but seriously, get yourself a General's chalk pencil. They're amazing for eye whites. They lay down so nice and opaque in just one layer. I'm doing brown eyes for this character, so I'm going to start with a brownie orange. This part will become the highlight later on. Since starting this hobby, I've looked at numerous tutorials for coloring in eyes, but most of them seem to be made with digital art in mind. What I generally see is people laying down a dark iris color, then adding gradients of lighter colors over top. But when you're drawing on dolls, that method won't work. Or at least I haven't been able to make it work. You have to start with the lightest color first, and then layer up your shading with darker pencils on top, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. I start with that orange, then add darker and darker browns on top until I'm happy with it. I do think I tried to hit it with a yellow at the bottom of the iris towards the end, but I'm not really sure if that shows up. I suppose you could do that with acrylic paints, but I'm not really that good with a paintbrush. I come in towards the end with some gray to give the eyes a subtle shading. I'm also opting to draw on the lashes this time rather than glue on falsies. I wanted a more natural look, so I'm keeping the lashes dark brown. At one point they were just a smidge too light, and the pencils weren't building, so I hit it very, very lightly with my black, and then immediately blended that out with my darkest brown, and it came out great. Since these are anime eyes, they need lots of shines. I dot on a few shines symmetrically across the eyes rather than picking a single light source. I've also been trying out these thin lines rather than just white dots, and I really love the way it looks. I've also always loved those little white dots that Anastasia Customs does, so let's add those too. So cute! All that's left now is to gloss her eyes and lips, and the face is done! Oh, a quick note about these neck pegs. I find it really difficult to jam the doll's head back on once I've rerouted, since the area is smaller now that the glue is taking up so much space. But you really only need these bottom little prongs, so you can just cut the top part off. Once she's been boil washed, the doll part is all finished. By this time the fabric had arrived. It came surprisingly fast. Ah, it's perfect! The scale is very close to what I was expecting, and I love the way that it all looks together. Let's double check the length of the collar. Ooh, just enough. No room for mistakes on this one. I should be able to make 2 yukatas or a kimono out of this fabric. Gotta be careful. It took me a little while to choose where to cut the sleeves from, but I think here is a good place. And with the scraps, I had enough left over to make a tiny bag for her too. Once I've sewn all that up, she's done! Her name is Hoshimiko Hino, which should mean something like Star Sea Child if I did my research right. I had a lot of fun with this project, and I've gotta say, she's my favorite face-up I've done so far. She came out very soft and delicate looking, and I'm very happy with the gradient in her eyes, since that's always such a difficult thing for me. I've also really been wanting to print my own fabric for a long time, and this gave me the perfect excuse to do it. I just hope that Mama Maro loves her as much as I do, and I can't wait to see what she sends me. If you like Hoshimiko, don't forget to give that like button a click and subscribe for more doll content. I put out a new video every other Thursday. You can follow me on Instagram for more behind the scenes stuff and sneak peeks. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now!